good morning. All right. What a nice rain we've gotten. Man. Most of the state got rain, I believe, but we got an inch, maybe an inch and a half in places, which was really, really nice. Definitely good. Morning, Tiffany. Morning, Sean. Summers. Morning, Mom. Morning, Michelle. We have a lot going on this week, but nothing compared to the last couple of weeks. I think we're going to be idled back just well, I'd say that. And then I've got to teach a lunch on Tuesday and then do our Cowboy Church service Tuesday night. I'm teaching a deal about to some area pastors that gather on noon on Tuesdays. So, morning, Adam. Morning, Wendy. Morning, Mara. But yeah, it is a good rain and cool weather, man. I tell you what, it's supposed to be high in the 70s today. I think the rain's going to scoot on out of here, but for us up here, I think the central, I think a little further south and east of us, because still going to get some today. But morning, Brad. Morning, Christy. Jana, good morning. Morning, Scott. So anyway, we'll give everybody just a minute or two here. Wow. Been reading, of course, I've been teaching about the blessing on Sunday morning, or, living in God's blessing and talking about that. Morning, Rhonda. Been missing you live on here. Yeah, I had to get the felt out finally. I mean, it's time, but boy, couldn't go to work. And 2 days ago, it's still 105 degrees or whatever, over 100 degrees for 3 days straight there. Sure wasn't going to wear my felt just because it was felt season. You got to, and when I was working outside, now when I went to did the Cowboy Church, I've been wearing it, but yeah, I had to break it out. Nice, gonna be nice. And I got a normal long sleeve shirt instead of a one of those fishing shirts that are so cool. Let the air flow through. Probably wear a jacket this morning, actually. But anyway, it is good. Well, let's get into the Word. We'll let others jump on here. I know I was talking to one of my cousin's husbands. One of my cousin's husband. She's only got one. I got lots of girl cousins. But I was talking to him and John Smith out there in Boise City and watches quite a bit. He said sometimes he's finishing up whatever his other devotion is and doesn't get on quite as early. And but I give everybody a little bit of time here at the beginning without trying to bore everybody who watches back, or it was on there early and sitting. But anyway, good morning, Ryan Owens. Good morning, Mom. Yep, it's that time. All right, let's get into the Word. Let's go into Matthew chapter 6, and I love it. Jesus is teaching, and it's interesting to read through the teachings of Jesus and going from the different Gospels, looking at things chronologically. I know my wife and I were talking about a chronological Bible because the way the Bible's laid out, it's not always in chronological order. I don't know if you realize that or not, but there's times whenever things are compiled based on maybe the author, based on something that was written, like in the case of the Gospels, the Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John. They were maybe written years later. Some of them were written for one of the authors, or from the accounts that were being taught and being remembered and being related, or they might have been a bunch of little pieces that were put back together in different cases for different books throughout the Bible. And so things weren't always, it doesn't read like a book under the whole thing. You start at the front and go to the back and you get the whole picture. There's certain things that are rearranged, or and 66 separate books within the one book of the Bible. And so we most of y'all know that, but when you understand that, then it changes. You aren't concerned about reading it from the front to the back, and you're more about, I need to know this at this stage in my life, and now I have some time. I want to get over here and understand some of the history and what was going on. Also, the Old Testament has thousands of years going by, and a few chapters might go through a generation or two, in the transition of one king that was in power for 40 years or 50 years or 30 years, and then his son or his successor. It may be talking about Judah at times, that when Israel and Judah were separated, the nation of Israel being in two parts. And so all those things make it kind of complicated a little bit to understand at first in the Old Testament, especially. So when you get into the New Testament, it's a little more concise and shorter time period, but especially the time of Jesus. But understanding all that, it's to me it's a constant, a book that can constantly be learned from. It never gets old to me, because there's always something new to learn and understand and grasp. But these nuggets of life that Jesus is bringing in, and he's teaching them, and that's what he's doing here in Matthew chapter 6. He's teaching about giving. He's teaching about having your heart right. He's teaching about how you live. There's all these things that are coming into play, and they're all valuable to us, because he's teaching how do we live the most in line with God, and able to, and then having the ability to walk it with God as close as we can. And one of the things that he talks about, he jumps in. He taught them how to pray, the Lord's Prayer. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done. He goes through that. Then he talks about fasting, and he talks about forgiving. He talks about forgiving in verse 15. He talks about fasting in verse 16, 17, and 18. And then he gets down to verse 19. And I wanted to jump in here because I had this in my notes for Sunday, and I ran out of time. I thought I was going to finish up I may come back to some of this. I may retitle it, but he talked about don't store up treasures in verse 19. Don't store up treasures here on earth, where moths eat them and rust destroys them, and where thieves break in and steal. Store your treasures in heaven, where moths and rust cannot destroy, and where thieves do not break in and steal. Wherever your treasure is, there the desire of your heart will be also. And so he ties together the treasure, or our money, our finances, but also the things that we tying it to our heart, the things that are important to us, and those two things will they're tied together. They're one demonstrates the other. They'll follow one another, and so he's given us a kind of a litmus test of where our true heart is and how to allow ourselves to see that. He whenever we can ask ourselves, how serious am I, or how dedicated am I, say, to a hobby or something. Where's your money going? Where's your excess money going? If every time you have excess money, it's going towards a horse or hunting. We were talking about my pickup being a mess, which it's usually a mess because our ranch and grass and cattle and everything's about 30 miles away from home, and so and I've got a shop up there, but I've got a shop here, and there's stuff ends up scattered between the two. So I carry a lot of stuff in my pickup so that I've got it with me. Plus, if you're out there and you need stuff, that's nice to have, and depending on what's going on at the time, I've got extra medicine or extra things to feed a baby or ear tag or whatever it is. I've got a lot of stuff. This is all excuses for how messy my pickup is. But we've also an extra boots and extra stuff that I need in case it rains, and there's all those things. But then now it's hunting season. I got an extra, maybe a gun or maybe extra stuff in there, and that extra stuff is all for what's going on in my life right now. And so, you can look at how dedicated you are to something, how much time, energy, thought, money, how much of your life do you give towards that? And really our treasure is more than just our money. In my mind, in this, he's looking at what takes our thoughts, what gets our attention, where what are we looking at on TV shows, scrolling, reading books. If you don't do social media, I mean, my social media feeds have always got stuff about horses and cattle, and then also hunting. There's a lot of stuff there, and then scriptural things, reading things, and there's all kinds of things like that we can gain and glean from. But if we don't have, if the same way with our relationship with the Lord, how much time are we giving to God? How much of our finances and our giving are we being obedient to do that? And that's a demonstration of our heart. But where our treasure is, he says, there's our heart also. And so there's certain things that I spend money on now, but they're lower on the list. And there's those other things that we put above that. Now, verse 22, I wanted to get into that because verse 22 says, your eye is a lamp that provides light for your body. When your eye is good, your whole body is filled with light. And when your eye is bad, your whole body is filled with darkness. And if the light you think you have is actually darkness, how deep that darkness is. And so, he reflects on, or he uses this kind of a riddle, but I think they understood that to be, and I'm going to read this this commentary that explains this probably better. I could form these words, but I think it just says it really well out of this this study Bible. It says the eye, similar to the heart in Jewish literature, in parentheses. So that eye, he's not only talking about a reflection or the eye, but it's like a lamp, or like the heart is a lamp that reveals the quality of a person's inner life. So that eye is allowing to see inside is what he's, but it's opening that up, or it's revealing it. And but he relates that to a healthy eye. He says a healthy eye is healthy eye or clear vision suggests loyal devotion to God. With a bad eye or an impaired vision connotes moral corruption. And so, he's reflecting at more than just our outward actions, but what's really happening on the inside, that inner part of us. And so, when we think about our heart, and I talk about this a lot because God talks about it a lot, is He talks about our heart in the Old Testament, in the New Testament, under all authors. He's always, it's a reflection. Our life and can hide or demonstrate certain outward things, but God's looking at what's really in our heart, and ultimately that's what's going to determine our relationship with the Lord, or it'll reveal what our true relationship with the Lord is. And then going on to this next verse 24 says, "No one can serve two masters, for you will hate the one and love the other. You will be devoted to one and despise the other. You cannot serve both God and money." I tell you what, he just is transitioning this right over into the effects of how we handle our money. And he says, you can't serve two masters. So he's not trying to get all money out of our hands. He's trying to make sure that it's not the thing that rules our life, our thoughts, and everything. He says, don't serve two masters. You're gonna despise the one and love the other. In other words, you're going to reject or refuse to follow God if money becomes your number one thing. And I think that's an illustration of why God calls us to give first fruits, tithes, and giving first to God. It's that submission to God. I want you, and the honoring of God first. I trust you that you're going to be with me, and I'm going to make do on 90% at least, minimum, because I'm going to give my first to God. And it's not just the leftovers. It's not getting around to it. It's not later. It's first. So there's a faith in that. It's like, I might need that. That's the argument in our head sometimes. I might need that. Or what if this happens? I'll hold on to that, and at the end of the month, if I still got money, I'll give it to God. Well, the devil will make sure you don't have money at the end of the month, right? But we give that trusting God in all those other ways. So anyway, just an encouragement, I believe, to you. But Jesus is talking about the things of our heart and putting and keeping God first and number one in our life, demonstrating that through the treasure of our life. He talks about that through that whole chapter. So this whole chapter is awesome. Y'all chew on that and ask God to reveal to you how it is that you can best walk with God. Giving of God in my time, my devotion. I mean, that's what he's over here talking about prayer. He's talking about our food. He's talking about yielding to and obeying God where forgiving to others is concerned, or forgiving others is concerned. And then he continues, in our finances in several different ways. It's interesting how he does that, and yielding our heart. So he ties that whole thing in, and understanding or walking in that study. And then at the end of it, he says, "Don't worry," or not the end, but in verse 25, don't worry about everyday life. Trust God. Well, when we've done those other things, trusting God in the end gets a lot easier. So take that, stand on the Word of God, allow God to continue to shape, mold, and guide you. And I believe that you'll walk blessed in everything that you do. So go out today, be blessed, and go get them for Jesus. Love y'all. Look who come on, Daniel, good morning. Morning, Ryan. Good morning, Lucy. Sean Mayfield, Bobby Seedorf. Morning, John Smith. We got a pretty good group again, spread out all over. Blessed to have you guys join with us, and go out and have a great Monday. Enjoy the cool weather and the rain that we've gotten here